Hey there, Chad here for the AI Content Dojo. In this video, I just kind of want to take a step back and sort of remind you that there's more that goes into creating content than just using AI to generate it or help you generate it. There's usually some sort of a strategy that you probably will want to have. Whether you're doing it for like a blog for your niche site or something like that, or you're writing product descriptions for an e-commerce company or ad copy, things like that. You know, there's usually a goal with your writing. And it also means that there's probably some amount of work that goes along with it, right? You know, you can't, or you shouldn't, just kind of like open up the AI tool, crank out some content, and then use it without like really understanding the reason why you're doing it and why and like the focus of the reader's intent and why like that content is going to be used in certain ways across, you know, your sites or your services. And so workflow is often one of the things that comes up with basically when any tool arrives on the market, that, you know, how does it fit into a workflow? Does it, you know, take over some of the tasks for certain things you used to do one way, and now you need to retool your whole workflow to make it so that it integrates better. Things like that kind of come up, and I guess I just want to really quickly go over sort of the workflow that I designed, that I use, that works pretty well. And it's pretty common sense, actually. Nothing really crazy, but I hope that maybe through this video I can give you some guidance. If you've never sort of thought about your workflow before, maybe this will help you come up with something to, you know, that works for you. So of course, number one is brainstorming. You know, you got to figure out what you're going to write about first, right? Then you should research it, because you probably want to know something more about it than what your reader would, well, they themselves would know. You're trying to inform or to entertain or, you know, give good product descriptions, things like that. Then you're going to have to actually write it. So there's a writing step. After that, maybe you want to do a little SEO optimization, because, you know, Uncle Google is the one who directs everything on all the traffic on the web. And if you're, you know, if Uncle Google's not happy, then maybe nobody will read your article. Actually, SEO and edit, they can be kind of interchanged. There's, you know, you want to make sure that you're publishing quality content. I mean, you're going to have to spend some time editing, you know, for things like obvious technical errors or punctuation, things like that. Clarity, you know, things that don't sound right or are too difficult to read. Plagiarism checks, fact checks, all that kind of stuff goes into editing. And then you want to publish it, and that doesn't mean just like publish and then poof, you're done, and that's, you know, it's a bunch of text on a website somewhere. Generally, you want to publish it in a way that makes it easy for somebody to skim, to stop, to read, to get into, you know. And so, in essence, a little bit of typography and design and some interactive elements or something like that, if you can. Lists, you know, tables, good, you know, wholesome, you know, ways of kind of showing that content, even though it's already written, but in a way that doesn't make it just sort of, I don't know, maybe boring to read, you know. Like if it's just a big block of text, nobody wants to read that, right? But a well-designed article is significantly better. And then promote it. You know, you need to spend some time either chopping it up to put onto different platforms, or to literally produce advertisements for it, or maybe little snippets of videos, things like that, to help get out there and drive traffic. And just really quick, I'm not going to dive in too much, but there's certain parts where AI can provide a ton of assistance, and there's some parts where, well, it's not so much AI doing it, at least not yet. So brainstorming. See, brainstorming is an interesting one, because you can use several methods, of course. You know, you could just be Googling things that you're interested in and then finding out sort of the questions that people are asking, or, you know, what other searches are that are related. Or you could use a tool like maybe Ahrefs or SEMrush or any number of other, Surfer SEO, things like that. Phrase, Bloggly, Postspace or Postpace. Those tools, they'll help you. They'll help you find ideas and stuff like that. But if you think about it, those are all kind of the data-driven things that everybody's using. And so there's a good chance that you're just finding the same sort of topics that other people are too. I like to also sort of step outside of all those tools and everything. Just kind of take a look around, or study. Just learn and come up with ideas from what you're learning from. Like maybe it's an audiobook or a podcast or just something happening around you or somebody you talk to, maybe some courses that you've been in, other bloggers who are writing about it. Maybe they'll spark a question in your mind that you can then research and answer for somebody. Just stuff like that, Of course, you can use AI too. Shortly has some fantastic tools to help you come up with ideas, and I'm sure that any number of the other AI writing apps out there can do the same thing. But the point is that, usually when you're brainstorming, you're going to want to be coming up with a whole bunch of ideas that you can then look through and kind of pick the best ones from. It's partially maybe manual work combined with some tools to help you. The research part, research is interesting too, because for the most part, most things have been kind of written about on the web or something in some manner, right? Unless it's like a super brand new product or service or company or something like that. But if it's about something that's kind of stood the test of time, then the chances are there's a whole ton of content out there. And you can use tools like Phrase to kind of collate a whole bunch of the research into one place for you so that you can research really quickly. It's one of the biggest reasons why I recommend Phrase, just for the research aspect of it alone, let alone the SEO parts that it can help you with as well. But the point is, though, with research is that you actually would need to spend the time. You don't. This is one of the biggest things that I see with them, is not necessarily a problem, I guess, but a lot of these AI writing apps will let you, write about something that you don't really know much about, right? And it's kind of like watching the news, right? If you watch the news about a topic that you know nothing about and they're telling you untrue things, then you wouldn't know how to spot it, right? But let's say if the news was telling you something about, a topic that you were really interested in, you knew tons of information about it, and they were not telling you the truth, or maybe sort of covering up something obviously, which is only obvious to you because you happen to know a ton about the topic, that wouldn't sit too well with you, would it? So same thing with writing it. If you're in a situation where the AI is doing most of the writing for you and it's not a topic that you're well aware of, you're going to probably end up with some facts and some statements and things in that article that are a little bit less than true. So you got to be very careful and research. The whole point, you need to take a step back maybe sometimes and think about why you're creating an article. Generally, you're writing it because you want somebody to read it, and that reader has a reason for reading it, right? They've typed something into Google. Google thought that yours was the best answer for them, the best article to give them the answer that they seek. And that's what you need to focus on. That person who's coming, the reason why they're coming to read your article. You just need to create your article around that. And as long as you have done enough research to be able to do that and do it better than anybody else, you're going to have a successful article. And so, yes, part of the research is developing an outline of your article, something that will kind of give you a way to keep a narrative thread going, to make sure that when you're, in the middle of writing and using the AI to write, that you don't steer off or veer off on the wrong path or go off down a tangent, because AI will do that to you quite easily. So I always like to, in the research phase, kind of plan out an outline based on what I'm learning about the topic. And then, of course, you get into writing, and look at this. This isn't very easy to read now, is it, with its colors? But something like an AI writing tool like Shortly will definitely help you write much faster. I mean, it's literally like having an AI assistant right next to you and just helping you write, maybe a junior writer on the team kind of thing. And the writing step is just the writing step, right? That's where you've already done the research, you've already brainstormed your idea. You know who your target audience is, and you've done the research. You've got an outline, and you're just writing. At this point, you're bringing all that stuff that you learned, and you're molding it into a way that's going to like really be helpful for that reader who's come to your site or to your article. And that's writing. Then you're going to want to optimize it in SEO. This is the part where it can be one of those tasks that's like really in depth. You know, a full-blown SEO review could involve a ton of factors. But for the most part, it's kind of overkill. Really, what Google is really looking for is for you to write that article that is perfect for the reader. And then maybe kind of a little bit extra to kind of clue in Google what it needs to know to be able to determine that yours is the best one for that reader. So it's going to be some topical, keywords that are kind of used, and the phraseology that you're using, the obvious focus on your reader. And then you're going to have a whole bunch of other factors that you can't control anyway. So as long as your site loads quickly and your readers don't bounce as soon as they hit your site, and they're spending enough time and they seemingly are leaving happy, then Google is going to be, pretty happy with what you're writing anyway. If you want to go further in SEO, I probably won't talk about it too much inside of the AI Content Dojo, but what I like to do is just drop it into Phrase or any tool similar to Phrase. I think Surf for SEO and those would probably work just fine. But just drop it into Phrase and try and make the topic score as high as it can be, and you'll be good enough. Editing. So editing is super important, obviously. This, it's one of those things that you don't want to end up accidentally publishing something that's going to embarrass you later. But it's not just that. It's also, the style and this is where you get to go in and do the delightful part of writing, right? You get to go back and make sure that your words have all the impact you wanted them to have. And I think one of the best things you could do is actually, after you're done writing and maybe a little bit of SEO optimization stuff, if you have the time in your publishing schedule, just like leave that article for a couple days, come back and then do your editing and kind of have a little bit of a fresh perspective. And that will give you the opportunity to spot things that you're maybe don't make sense to you all of a sudden. And you're like, hey, that sentence, like, why did I write it that way? And then you have to think about it, and then maybe you'll rewrite it to be more clear, something that the reader would be better to, or easier to understand for them. And, things like that. But a tool like Grammarly Premium will really push you through the editing process really quick, especially for the technical stuff, their punctuation and capitalization and misuse of words and stuff like that. Grammarly is going to really help you out there. But they've also kind of really grown up a little bit. If you've used Grammarly before and haven't used them in a while, because maybe they are a little bit pricey, they do have clarity tools and things like that now, like concision. Basically, it's going to go through your content and show you ways that you can rewrite it for clarity. And sometimes it's really good to pair that with AI, because on the flip side, these AI writing apps like to be a little wordy. So, you could be editing yourself, but if you use Grammarly Premium, it will do those clarity kind of edits for you. It's really nice and saves you a ton of time. Like, I think if I didn't have Grammarly Premium, I would probably get to the point where only my most important articles were the ones that I was spending enough time to at least somewhat reliably have enough editing done to where it's probably not going to have too many mistakes in it. But I could see myself easily being in a hurry and not doing enough, just maybe quickly glancing over it. But using something like Grammarly will get you through the editing process really fast. And I highly recommend that one. Even though there are other tools like Linguix and stuff like that, it's just that Grammarly is the market leader, and You could use something, WordTune is a good one. It's not really necessarily like on the same path as Grammarly. Grammarly is in there to like fix your writing. WordTune is kind of more for like rewriting or adding some flavor kind of things. It's a good tool though, and you should check it out if you're interested in that. Okay, and then you're gonna publish it, right? Publishing it is you want beautiful typography, layout, spacing, colors. I like to think that I've done a pretty decent job in the AI Content Dojo. Let me see if I can zoom out here a little bit. Like this is what the website looks like, and it's almost like a slideshow, like appeal. That's why I kind of like doing these videos like this. It's just my website. I don't have to go and build a whole slide deck to present this to you. And it basically builds the site or the pages, the articles in a way that there's a lot of white space. So if you're a reader and you're going to the site, you're going to breeze through until something catches your eye. And this site's design makes it easy for you to do that. Even when you're in the really long, full guides and stuff like that with lots of text, it's still easy for somebody to just breeze through it and catch what they want. And then you're going to want to promote, and I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of content about promoting, but it's the marketing you're going to do. It could be the ads, it could be the reaching out to influencers, or just sharing it in Facebook groups, or doing more where you're actually chopping the content up and just putting it in maybe Instagram or Twitter and other things, just to get the word out about your content. Basically all the growth hacks and everything happen inside the promotion phase. And it's a little bit, it's one of those things that as a writer, maybe if you're like a pure writer, it's maybe not right up your alley to do. And it's something that you wish that if this is for your own site, you got to do it. But if you're a part of a team, you're just hopeful that somebody else on the team is going to be the one that does that maybe. But anyway, in summary, this is the workflow kind of that I came up with. And just to recap it really quick, you're going to brainstorm, come up with ideas, right? Then you're going to research those ideas, maybe come up with an outline of what you're going to write about. And then you're going to write your first drafts, using something like Shortly AI, and base it off of the outline maybe that you created with Phrase or something, the research tools. Then you might do a little bit of SEO optimization, then go off and edit, make sure that you're not going to introduce any real errors and stuff like that. Maybe fix it for your tone, make sure there's no plagiarism, fact check, all that kind of stuff. And then you're going to publish it, and you're going to want to publish it beautifully online, whether that's a WordPress blog or Webflow or whatever your product is that you're publishing in. You should just spend some time to do a good job, make it look nice, and then finally you're going to get out there and promote it. So that's the workflow that I designed for the AI Content Dojo, and that's what I teach. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you can go into each of these sections. Nothing here costs anything. You can just go in and like, let's just say writing, for instance, and you can see all my guides on writing and using the AI tools to do the writing. And that's how I've broken up the AI Content Dojo. But also, if you want more, go over to Facebook and join the AI Content Dojo Facebook group, where we have some excellent discussions for making the most out of these tools. And maybe someday you can become a true ninja and help support the AI Content Dojo in the future. And I hope that you found this helpful. And I love making these videos like this to improve everybody's productivity using these tools and some good standard practices. And until next time, take care.